Hi guys, have you just built your first gaming PC and you don't have a Scooby-Doo what to do next? Well, I'm here to help. Guys, we've all been there. You built your first gaming PC, but one, you don't know how to install Windows. Two, you have no idea about updating the BIOS. Three, overclocking the RAM. What's all that about? Well, I'm here to help. Stay tuned and I'll show you that and a lot more. Right guys, the first thing we're going to do is update the BIOS. So go to the BIOS and firmware section, find the latest version, download it and save it to a memory stick. Okay, so now we're actually in the BIOS. Go to Tool, then ASUS Easy Flash Utility, via storage devices, that's a USB stick in other words, and then select the .cap file which we've just downloaded. It will read it and then it will do its business. This will take about 10 minutes to run. It's vitally important that you don't lose power, so do not turn off your machine because otherwise you could brick your motherboard, i.e. render it useless. Now it's important to update the BIOS so that you don't have any compatibility issues, say with new memory speeds, CPUs, devices. So make sure it's up to date and hopefully you'll avoid any issues along the way. By default, DDR4 comes in 2133 or 2400. Now, if you get a kit that's rated at say 3200, like I have here, then that's actually the overclock. Sometimes you have stability issues depending on your motherboard and your BIOS version, so you might have to drop it down. In my case, I'm having to use a DOCP of 3000 because it wasn't booting into Windows. So you can also do a manual overclock using the memory frequency option that was listed there. Now we're going to look at installing Windows 10. You're going to need access to another machine and a USB stick that is at least 8 GB. Go to the website, download the tool, go through the wizards, and then after about 10-15 minutes you'll have a bootable USB stick. So we've created our USB stick, we've booted our machine into that stick, and we're going to install Windows. Follow the wizard as on screen. You don't need to have a key, you can do that later on, so just select the appropriate option and the version that you want to install. Custom install. Here we have an issue because the disk already has an installation on it and it won't let us install. So what we need to do is clean the drive, and what we do is we press Shift F10. That will take us to a command prompt, and then we type in disk part as shown on the screen. We're then going to do a list disk command that will show us the drives that are connected to this system. We then select disk 0 because that's where our Windows installation is going to take place, and we clean it. You can format it, there is commands for that, but we don't need to do that in this case. So now if we quit out or exit as I'm typing, refresh with the icon or press F5. And voila, we have a selectable option. So now it's going to install Windows. This can take, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, just depends really. So sit back and enjoy. Right, so now we're setting up Windows. Just select the options that are relevant to you. I generally just hit no, skip, because a lot of the stuff is not important. Okay, here I'm creating an offline account because I don't really want to log in with a Microsoft account, but you can do that, that's absolutely fine. And we're almost into Windows. Now by magic we're actually in Windows. The first thing that I would recommend doing is updating it. Your USB stick might be out of date, especially if you created it in the past. So just run this, get the latest drivers for everything, reboot your system, and even after that double check it. So go into this option and see if there's anything else to install. We're going to now revisit the ASUS website, and we're going to download the chipset drivers. This will give us like extra power settings, and stability issues will be resolved, especially if you're experiencing some. So as with anything, just keep it up to date, and then just follow the wizards, install it, restart your machine, and you should be good to go. So the machine's rebooted now, and we're going to go into the power settings, and you'll see that Ryzen balance is enabled now. Apologies for the video in this one. I recorded it using my camera because I was having issues. I couldn't be bothered to swap out my capture card, to be honest. So we're just installing some graphics for AMD. So you just go to the website, you follow the wizards, as pretty standard, to be honest. Here we're downloading an auto detect tool, so if you don't know what your graphics card is, then go this route, and it's quite straightforward. Because I was having issues actually. I thought, oh yeah, I know which version I needed, and then when I installed it, it said so yeah, just go this route. It's safest. Now we're looking at the Nvidia side of things. So just go to the Nvidia website, download GeForce Experience. Although you don't actually have to download this. This is just my preference, and it's the easiest way of doing things, to be honest. Install it. And then you're going to be asked to log in, sign up, whatever it is, get in there, and then you go into the drivers tab, and then you're going to download the latest drivers. Now when it comes to the installing part of it, it is a little bit flaky, so if you're trying to install something at the same time, then it will basically error. So just make sure nothing else is trying to install, and you should be fine. So now we've got it installed, and you can see all the options. You can see shadow play, where you can stream, record, and it's an excellent bit of kit, to be honest. I really do enjoy using it. And here we're in the Nvidia control panel, which you might have to download yourself from the Microsoft Store, but yeah, you can change resolution and set up G-Sync, so all good. One of my favourite utilities is MSI Afterburner. This is where you can get on-screen display for your FPS, temperatures, and you can also overclock your graphics card. It's not limited to MSI cards, so don't be fooled by that. So just download it as we're seeing on the screen, and then I'll walk you through it. So now we've got it loaded up. There are lots of options there to overclock your graphics card. It's not something I tend to do, but if you want that, then look into it. I check the starter box. Here you can see the graphics card installed, and then the driver. Go into options. Again, just check those two boxes, and then you won't have any issues going forwards. In here, this is where you can set a custom fan curve. So if your temperatures are too high or your fan's too noisy, you can adjust this. It's worth a tinker. For now, we're going to turn it off. Monitoring is where it comes into its own, this bit of software. Select the options that are relevant. So usually I have GPU usage and temperature, the memory is used, the fan speed, and I'll look at the CPU temperatures, clocks, and the like. And most importantly, I'll set the options for FPS, so your averages, you might want your minimums and maximums as well, and your frame rates, and that's all relevant, and they'll appear on the screen when you're playing games. So just make sure it says it shows on-screen display, and it's ticked there as well, because otherwise it won't appear. Okay, so these options I did F10, F11, F12, here home and ends. So that's basically stops and starts your recording of your average FPS. So apply, and then the option should appear just above my cursor. There you go, click on that. And this is actually what displays on the screen, the Reaver tuner stats. So check it on, medium. You can increase the size there depending on your resolution you monitor. If you're using 1080p, then the default is fine, but if you're going 4K for instance, then you want to increase that. So that's about it. So we're going to see this now when we load up Valley. So here we are with Valley. We're going to install it, and I'll show you around it. It's one of my favourite bits of software when it comes to just testing a system. So usually I'll get a PC in, and I just want to see if the graphics card's running fine. Now this is 343 megabytes to download, and once it's installed, it's about 450. So it's not massive. It's standalone, so it doesn't need a launcher. And then yeah, I just run it, and I just check everything's all right. I can see the FPS of the card and the temperatures of that, and the CPU, etc. when it comes to using Afterburner. So just let this install, and then have another look. So now we're going to launch Valley. There's lots of options there which you can select. You know, if you've got a 4K monitor, then you've got a plethora that you can, of resolutions that you can run. So choose the correct options for you, and it will load like it is. As you can see in the top left hand corner, it's got the Reaver tuner statistics via MSI Afterburner. We've got the GPU there running at 52 degrees. Once it updates, it'll show that so 94%, 100% on the utilization, and then the fan's running at 68. Memory, virtual memory is only about 1 gigabyte. Clock speeds of 4.0, temperatures of 50 on the CPU, and then the FPS is at the bottom there, the little salmon pink. So yeah, so we're running a benchmark now. At the end of it, it'll give us a score of the average frames per second, and yeah, it's just a nice utility. And also, you don't need to run the benchmark; you can just have the utility running, looping, and it won't produce a score, but it will just test the system as much as you want it to. So there you go, 97.6. Another good utility is CPU-Z. It comes in various flavours. Here we're going to download the ROG one, and this is where we can see lots of information about our system. So we'll just let it load up. And there's tabs for the CPU, so there's lots of information there. Again, for motherboard, so you can see what version of the BIOS you're running. The memory, so we're running at 3000, and then obviously you can look at the individual DIMMs. If we had a Nvidia card, then I think it will show the memory vendor, so that would be Samsung or Micron, I think it is. Another bit of software I really like using is Hardware Info, also known as Hardware Info 64. So just follow what I'm doing on screen, install it, and then summary only is the best that I've found. And here is just a plethora of information. It's too much information in some respects, but you can hide individual sections. You just right click on the header and then just hide or remove. Yeah, so we'll just scroll down. So I'll use this if I'm, say, stress testing a system like for, I don't know, 10-20 minutes, and I can see the average, the high CPU temperatures, the voltages and the like. So there's lots of sensors there. That's coming from the motherboard and the like. So this will tell us information about the hard drives, so the life remaining, how much data they've put through them, etc. And then this is the GPU bit, so again that's something which I like to monitor over a period of time, especially if I've got a new card and I'm just tweaking things in terms of like the custom fan curve. In order to test the CPU, I use Cinebench 20. Now this is a good bit of software because it puts quite a bit of load on your CPU, so you can test if your thermal solution is working as it should, and also whether your overclock, should you have done any, are stable. I've had many attempts at overclocking where it's been fine in game, but when I've tried to run this, it's just bombed out. So it'll be a good indicator. It's not perfect, but it's pretty decent, especially in my case. So here we're looking at the average and the high temperatures just to make sure they're under control. Once this runs through, we'll get a score at the end, so then you can compare against, if you're doing overclocking. So if you're doing it at 4.0, you can see if your change has made any difference in terms of performance. And there we have it. Everything looks good as far as I'm concerned. Hi guys, well that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you got something out of it. If you liked it, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.